In this video, I'm going to go over how to solve absolute value equations. So we can have things that look like this. Anytime we're talking about absolute value, remember we are referring to distance from 0. So I'm going to draw a number line. All right, so remember that if we have, 0 here in the middle of our number line, when we're talking about absolute value, we are talking about distance from 0. So this expression, the absolute value of x, is basically asking what number, or numbers, could be more than one, has an absolute value of 5. So what number is 5 units from 0? Well, obviously we know that positive 5, is 5 units from 0. But it's not the only one. Because the way the number line works, remember, is that there are positive and negative numbers, and you can be 5 units from 0 and be on the negative side. So if I went -1, -2, -3, -4, -5, -5 is also 5 units from 0. So this equation up here, this absolute value of x equals 5, actually has two solutions. X could be positive 5, which is the one we think of first, but x can also be -5. All right, so when we see absolute value, we are thinking about those two possible solutions because there are two sides of 0, the positive side and the negative side. So let's look at another example. All right, for this example, we're going to look at the absolute value of x plus 3 is equal to 8. So again, remember, absolute value is referring to the number or numbers that are equal to an absolute value of 8. But in this case, it's not just what number is 8 units from 0. It's what number plus 3 would then be 8 units from 0. So if you think about that, I know that I could have, here's 0, right? So I know 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Here's positive 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. There's -8. So obviously I'm looking for things that are going to be 8 units from 0. There's one above 0 and one below. But I want to know, what number do I add 3 and I'm 8 units from 0? So well, that could happen two ways. Remember, adding, if you think about it on the number line, is moving in the positive direction, so shifting to the right, while subtracting or taking away is moving to the left. So if I were to shift a number 3 units right and want to end up here at positive 8, well, where would I have to have started? Well, I'd have to be 3 units back to the left. And then if I went 1, 2, 3 and shifted it right, then I would be 8 units to the right of 0. So in this case, that would have to be 5. So one of my solutions is x equals 5. Now you might say, well, hey, 8 minus 3 is 5. Isn't that just all we have to do? Well, on the right side of 0, yes. But remember, there's a negative side of 0, and negative numbers kind of behave in the opposite way from positive numbers, obviously. So they are a little bit different. I can't go, you might say, well, isn't it just -5? Could the other x be -5? Well, here's -5. Remember, plus 3 means shifting to the right 3 units. So if I went from -5 and went right 3 units, I'd be at -2. So that's not where I need to be. If I want my number to end up at -8 down here, 8 units from 0, and I'm shifting it to the right, I need to be 3 units this way. I need to go even further to the left. So that would have to be -11. So one of my solutions is positive 5. The other one is -11. So why weren't they the same number? Well, it has to do, again, with the fact that shifting in the positive and negative directions acts a little differently with positive and negative numbers, or integers as we call them, okay? So do you have to solve them all on a number line? No, you can. If number lines help you, this visual way is a great way to do it. But the other way to think of it is this. To solve this absolute value equation, I basically need to solve 2 smaller equations. We just did them visually, but I want to show you kind of what just happened mathematically, algebraically. We solved the equation, what number plus 3 is 8. We found what number, if we shifted it 3 units to the right, was 8 units from 0. And the way we would solve this as an algebraic equation would be to undo the addition of 3 by subtracting 3. And then we would get that x has to be 5. So there's the right side of 0. But then we also have to solve the equation for the left side of 0. And if I'm trying to represent 8 units on the left side of 0, it would have to be -8. So notice that to break apart this absolute value of x plus 3, basically, I have to make 2 equations, a -1 and a +1. All right, that is always going to be our strategy for absolute value equations, is we're going to have to make a negative and a +1. So then if I solved this one using my just algebra rules for solving an equation, I would undo adding 3 by subtracting 3, just like I already did. But then when I do -8 minus 3, or -8 plus -3, I get -11. So that is kind of the math reason, the algebra reason why what we just saw happen on the number line happened. Okay, so our strategy for solving absolute value equations is always going to be to break it apart into 2 equations, one that represents the right side of 0, or the positive number, and then one that represents the left side of 0, or the negative number. Let's do one more example. Okay, so one more example here. We have the absolute value of 2x minus 4, a little bit more inside that absolute value, but that's okay, and it's equal to 6. So again, remember, this means what number or numbers would have a distance of 6 units from 0. Okay, so anytime we see that absolute value, what numbers have a distance from 0 of 6 units? Well, positive and -6. So we set up 2 equations. One equal to the positive side of 0, one equal to the negative side. And notice that this right side equation, the positive one, pretty much looks exactly like what we have up there. But then for the left one, the negative one, we change the sign of that number over here. So then you just solve each equation the same way we already know how to solve linear equations. We undo the operations. So here I would add 4 to both sides. So 2x equals -6 plus 4 would have to be -2. And then to undo 2 times x, I'm going to divide by 2. So that gives me x equals -1. All right, then I come over here and I solve the right side. Let me kind of divide these. So 2x minus 4 equals 6. I would do the same exact steps that I already did over here, because I'm undoing -4. I do that by adding 4. 2x equals, for this equation, it's +6 plus 4, which is 10. Now I have 2 times x equals 10, undo multiplication with division. I'm going to divide both sides by 2, and that gives me x equals 5. So I get the 2 solutions, x equals -1 and x equals 5. And then I want to show you real quick how to check your work, and you can use the calculator to check your work as well. So let me show you how to do that. Okay, so the way we would check our work is we would use the solutions we found, in this case x equals -1 and x equals 5, and substitute them back into our original equation for x. So if I did that with -1, I'd be saying, okay, the absolute value of 2 times, and then I would put in that x value I found, -1, minus 4, does that equal 6? So does 2 times -1 minus 4, and then take the absolute value, does that absolute value equal 6? So you could do this with mental math. 2 times -1 is -2. -2 minus 4 would be -6. So is the absolute value of -6 equal to +6? Yes, it is. Absolute value is distance from 0, and -6 is 6 units from 0. So then we would repeat the process with our x equals 5. Okay, and for this one with the 5, I'm going to show you how to type it into the calculator. So 2 times, again, I substitute in the x value I found, so in this case, 5, minus 4 is the absolute value of 2 times 5 minus 4 equal to 6. So we could do that with mental math. Here's how you get absolute value on the graphing calculator though. Let me show you. So you're going to go to, from your main screen, you're going to press the math button. That's right here, the math button. And then newer calculators have 5 menus up at the top. Some of them may just have 4 like this one. So you're going to use the right arrow key to go over and highlight this number menu. And when you're on the number menu, option number 1, the very first one says ABS. That's absolute value. So you press math, then use the right arrow to go to number, and then while it's there on ABS, you just hit enter. And it will take you back to your calculator regular screen. Now yours might have absolute value bars and then like put a little box inside with a blinking cursor for you to type. Or it might do this, ABS. But either way, we are asking the calculator to use absolute value so we can proceed. So then we would type in exactly what we have inside our absolute value right here. 2 times 5. So 2 times 5. You can use the parentheses around the 5, but you don't have to. 2 times 5 minus 4. Okay, so I've typed in the left side, the absolute value of 2 times 5 minus 4. And when I hit enter, if we've done this right, if this answer works, we should get 6. And there we go. See, we get the answer of 6, which verifies that we did, in fact, get the right number. 5 is a solution for this absolute value equation.